Okay, hi everyone. Today we're gonna present the checks UI, the new checks UI in Gerrit, which is a new versatile interface for all your CI results. Today Ben and I to present this to you. I will start introducing myself. So I'm Delphine. I'm a UX designer for the Gerrit code review tool at Google. And yeah, now I'm letting Ben introducing himself.
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm excited to have you here on the presentation. I'm a software engineer at Google, and I've been working on the Gerrit frontend side for the past 3 years. And I've also implemented the checks UI that we are now showing you. And so first, to give you context of the problem space, so what are we trying to tackle and what the problem is. So over the past years, we've seen in code review tools in general the tendency that you want to see all the analysis and warnings and errors inside the UI. So we are moving away a little bit from just being a code review tool, but also to a tool that manages your code and that where you can actually vet your code and see what the errors are, etc. So typically what we see in Gerrit hosts and companies is that you are running hundreds of analyses and tests on your changes, and that you also want to use Gerrit as the entry point for seeing all this stuff. So this is, we see this as a big need, and we did try to address this a little bit, but first of all, we've been a bit behind. So we have this great plugin system, and over the past years, a lot of hosts have developed their own plugins to just do that, show checks in the way they wanted. But that means we have kind of 10 different plugins now that look very different. And then we've also made an attempt to 2 years ago to fix that on the Gerrit side, which was also called the Gerrit checks plugin. And the idea behind that was that all the CI systems would actually send their results to Gerrit, and Gerrit would store this data in their backend database. But that turned out to be too cumbersome to configure for everyone, and we now took a different approach, with this new checks UI and checks API, which is focusing on the user interface only. But yeah, let's first of all go into a quick poll, and yeah, I would be interested in asking you how much of a pain point for you is it to integrate checks and analyzers and test results into your Gerrit host at your organization. Is this like not an issue at all, or is this really the one thing that's bothering you about Gerrit, and that's extremely painful at the moment? I'd love to get some quick input. Okay, yeah, that's somewhat expected. I think for a couple of you, it's a big pain. Yeah, maybe not the biggest pain point. Gerrit is still usable. There are ways to integrate, but it's not great. And yeah, maybe for a couple of you who are not really in this deep integration level, or you have other means of looking at your test results. Cool. But with that, let's jump into the next slide. And yeah, I just want to quickly have a look at the former checks plugin. So this is what I think we delivered in 3.2, if I remember correctly. So this is, but this was also not Gerrit core. It's a plugin, and the idea here was that within Gerrit you would configure checks and checkers in much detail. You would say whether they're optional for submission, so Gerrit could even block on them, and you would send all your check results to Gerrit and store them there. And that has had the problem that was kind of a high barrier of entry, the configuration you had to do, and you also had to send Gerrit all the stuff. And on the Gerrit side, that also created a lot of complexity, because it had to kind of, yeah, like if something is required for submission, then yeah, you have to be very careful that everything is going correctly. You even need a data point at the very beginning and all this stuff. And that's something that apparently our stakeholders and customers didn't really need. They knew how to integrate with labels, and that was just fine. And labels were good for blocking submission, but the data themselves, they didn't really want to put into our database, but just keep wherever this is. Yeah, right. And with this, I would like to hand over to Delphine, who walks us a little bit through the user experience aspects of this.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, so for the user experience, we identified some user pain points with regards to the CI results in Android and Chrome Gerrit hosts. So one, a discoverability pain point. So for users, it takes several clicks and a lot of scrolling to find the right information on the existing checks plugin they have on these hosts. And another thing we learned is that there's also readability pain point. What we mean by that is that it's hard for users to interpret what has gone wrong. And additionally, there are many CQ system, CI system, Gerrit system that outputs checks and build errors, and they are in different tools. So users don't have an overview of what's happening with regards to their change and how the checks are doing. And lastly, we also had inconsistent UX across hosts, meaning that there was different UI for each host. So Gerrit Code Review was the former checks plugin that Ben showed you, but then for Chrome and Android, they used different plugins with a different user interface. And yeah, so next slide, please. Yeah, so now we would like to introduce you to our new checks solution. And yeah, why are we proposing a new interface for CI results? So our aim is to improve the user experience and also the admin experience for integrating Gerrit with the CI system and the analyzer system. And we want to do so with minimal disruptions to our customer team. Next slide, please. Yeah. So also with our solution, we provide to all Gerrit hosts who are willing to adopt this feature, first a first-class integration with a checks API to have consistent CI results. So yeah, this checks API will unify how the checks results are shown in the UI. And secondly, we want to provide a unified user experience to consult the checks results and to fix them. Yeah, so that user can better understand, okay, what's wrong with my change? What are the errors? What are the warnings? And how can I act upon them so that I can move my change closer to being submitted? Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an overview of our solution. So as I mentioned, we are providing a pluggable checks API that outputs data into a consistent user interface. And this checks API that we are presenting to you today is owned by the Gerrit team, and we have full ownership of what's happening with how CI results are presented to users. So how does it work? So let's say there's an Android CI system, Chrome, or even your host's CI system. It gets inputted into Gerrit's checks API. And these CI results are digested by the API and outputted into our checks UI, in which we present, and you'll see in the demo, the errors and flow and warning and a set of actions that you can do on the checks results. And what we provide in Gerrit is a centralized place so that the developers can see the checks result in their change. And then if they want to access more details about their build or test, then they can access an external tooling, whether like the Android and Chrome tooling or your build, test, results tool if you would like to adopt this UI. And yeah, so far we do not plan to have this build and test result within the Gerrit checks results. But yeah, you'll see, you'll have like what are the errors and so on warning, and then a few detailed summary, and then you can get to the external tools with build and test results. Next slide, this, and actually, yeah, now Ben will talk a bit more about how the data model works for the checks API. And so yeah, I'm handing over to Ben.
Thank you, Delphine. Yeah, next slide will then be the demo. We definitely want to quickly see how this actually looks like. But I first wanted to talk a little bit about the data model, because like the major challenge here is that we want to build something that works for all of you, right? For all these CI systems that exist Google internally, but also like for Jenkins or wherever you run. We want to provide like one data model and one UI that fits everyone, and that was like the challenge. So let's have a first quick look at the data model. So what we think that you can always map everything to is the concept of having one run with the status runnable, running, completed, and yeah, having multiple attempts, having maybe timestamps, and this run is tied to like one specific patch set of one specific change. And then this run, as soon as it's completed, it can have 0 or as many results as you want, right? So where like 0 results implicitly means success, but you can also have an explicit success result if you want, but you can also have an arbitrary amount of results. And then this result can actually then be of category success, info, warning, and error. That's important. You'll see this in a moment, because typically, if you start integrating CI systems and analyzers, you will soon have a ton of information, and we somehow have to make sure that you can see all the wealth of these hundreds and thousands of results, but you also don't get distracted. So you have all the information you need, but you get the focus where the actual problem is. Okay, cool. With that, maybe let's jump into the demo. So this is live on Chrome Review. So this is the Gerrit host that powers all Chrome open source development. And like you can go to this page yourself now. It looks the same. So this is not something that we set up. It's not even the boring Gerrit Review host that we'll have a look at in a minute. But yeah, so this is Chrome. And so what you can see here is that in the summary, we have a couple of chips about the status of those results and runs. So we have a couple of runs running. As you can see, we can even expand this in place and say, oh, wow, okay, so these are all the things that are running at the moment. That's quite a lot. But what I'm obviously most interested in is, yeah, okay, 74 was successful, but most interesting is, oh, I have a change here that has one error and one warning, and that's the most important thing that I need to know, right? So, and so we can either jump here. I can click this chip, and then I jump to the checks tab, and then here we break it down as we've just seen in the data model. On the left side, you have the list of runs, where this is just important of like, okay, what is running, what's completed, what is there that I can kick off. And I can like hover over this, get more detailed information potentially about, oh, okay, this was started 1 hour, 39 minutes ago, and that's actually the second attempt. This is all the information about the run, and on the right side is the stuff like that's the outcome. So what has happened, and yeah, so we are trying to get you directly to the errors and warnings, and yeah, so this is powered by a JavaScript plugin that has been written by the Chrome team. So they just feed this data into the Gerrit UI, and you can actually have as many and data checks providers as you want. You can also install 10 plugins, all feeding checks into this here. I think Chrome even has 2 or 3 plugins. They also have one for coverage, for example, which is, yeah, it's a separate plugin, feeds into the same UI. So they don't need these random places, which you also see on screen. Like they have this nice green box here on the left. This is what is bothering Delphine and me from time to time, because like every plugin just grabs a space and does whatever they want with this. So with checks, we give a good, clean UI. If the only thing you have to do is conform to this data model and hook into this, but otherwise you're good to go. Okay, let's have a quick look at the details here. So, of course, depending on what your checks provider can do, you can actually expand this and get more detailed information. And it's then up to the checks provider whether they really want to dump a lot of information into this UI, or whether they would just provide a link to their system where you can details. So here you have the link, and that's actually something that you already have in the check summary itself. So if you know that the actually interesting results about the error are on the link outside of Gerrit anyway, then you have like this one click step to get to the interesting results right away. Okay, so that's maybe a good overview. I'll now switch over to, or do you want to add something, Delphine? Anything from your side?
No, I think you cover it pretty well. One thing, the last thing we see is some open-in, which goes to the external build and test. But yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah.
Okay, then let's have a quick look at Gerrit review. So this is where we develop Gerrit. Obviously, we also host Gerrit on Gerrit. So these are, yeah, just a couple of fake results, but you can see some features that we have here. So for example, you can, these chips on the right side are tags that you can provide for each of those results. You can actually have some top level links and actions here. This is all checks provided, right? So you, like, every plugin can provide these actions. So if I can click here and then I can configure checkers, for example, right? So this is all of this is possible. You can even say you want such a prominent action that you wanted in the summary because it's so important that you like kick off all your pre-submits, something like that. Yeah, I hope all the other stuff is mostly self-explaining. You can also go back to patch set 2 and check out what we had there. You can, and then go back to the latest patch set. Yeah, obviously we want to know now, since we asked you whether it's a pain point now, we've demoed you the features of how that would work. And we'd be interested if that actually addresses your pain points. Yes or no? Cool. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, please reach out to us about like what you would still need. So if you're saying this is just somewhat addressing your needs, I would definitely be interested to learn about it. And that's maybe also let's switch over to Q&A. I've already seen a couple of questions that are coming in. Yeah, so the slides will be provided by Luca, and these links are in the PDF file. So if you actually want to look like what is this API in detail, what was the design, and especially like can you give me some examples for writing such a plugin, then just check it out here. So both of the plugins that you've just seen, Chrome and Gerrit, they're both open source, and you can check out how they look. Especially like if you have an HTTP interface providing this data, it's really just a matter of like making this call and converting into our data model. And like if you look at those plugins, you'll realize, especially the first one from Gerrit, it's not terribly complicated. It's fairly straightforward. So yeah, here are the links. You can get them offline. And with that, I would go over to Q&A. So from Andrew, we have a question asking, with the first-class integration with the checks API, is it possible to block submission based on CI results? That is technically not directly possible because these check results are always fetched on the fly from a completely different system, right? So if we wanted to block submission on those, then the backend before submission would also need to make a call and to this other system to figure out whether errors exist. So we believe for showing the results, that's exactly what you want to do, because at the moment where you're looking at the change, you want to see the freshest information, and then you want to make a call to the CI system to see the data. But for blocking, if you actually encounter an error, then we find the usual approach of sending a negative label vote to Gerrit is the best approach here, and that's what we are currently still doing. So if in the Gerrit CI system something goes wrong and we encounter an error, then the CI system would send a -1 vote on a specific label, and that blocks the mission. Then we have a question from Matthias. Is there already an integration of the checks UI to widely used CI systems like Jenkins, Zool, etc.? No, unfortunately not. We have it on our to-do list. So far, we can only provide you the two examples that I've just showed you in the links. So those are the 2 known open source plugins that already exist. But I'm happy to collaborate. So whenever you run into problems, I'm also reading repo discuss. So please reach out to us. Then we have a question from Shane. Many popular CI as a service providers differentiate between errored runs, breakage related to a service issue, and failed runs, breakage related to the project build commands. Is the same possible in the proposed data model? So we've actually avoided this on purpose. So we clearly want to make a distinction between the run and just saying, okay, it's either it's completed or not. And then if it's an infrastructure failure where the test couldn't complete or something, then you would still have to tell Gerrit and the user whether this is an error or a warning. So from the user perspective, what really matters for the user is just to understand like how important is the issue that I'm currently seeing. And what we've seen so far is that checks providers would typically differentiate these things via tags, right? They would say, this is an error, but it's not a test failure. The test itself couldn't run, like the system broke down or something. But then they would kind of tag this with a certain string so that the user can differentiate this. But yeah, we've kind of made this. We wanted checks providers to still use result errors for this and not come up with a different entity, because then we would find it's more difficult to navigate, like, is this a run error or a run failure or a result error? And we found this to work better for our users.